I wish that I'd been taught when I was at school. I'm an investor, a business owner, and a money educator. Understand it better, compound interest, cash flow, budgeting, investments, recover from debt. No one explained to me, put your money to work. It's about normalising the conversation.
Hey everybody, it's Sarah Poynton back with the Money Mechanics podcast. Very excited today to be hanging out with the lovely Dani Wallace. So Dani Wallace is based in the UK. She's the founder of the Big Festoon, which she's going to tell you a little bit more about in a second. She's a speaker coach and a lady that I've followed online for a long time. And I'm very interested and excited to have this conversation with you today, Dani. So thank you for being here.
Oh, you are welcome.
Tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Absolutely. So my name's Dani Wallace and I am the Queen Bee, which is it's a ridiculously audacious statement to make. But actually, it's really tongue-in-cheek. The idea behind me and having my business called IATQB, I am the Queen Bee, was that I grew up on the council estates of Preston and I was furious that the Queen was born the Queen and that, you know, not everybody is born in an equal space. And I just thought, you know what, success and money and, you know, living a good life is everybody's birthright, not just the people who happen to be born into it. Some of us have to be more tenacious about seeking it out, but is our absolute birthright. And if I can walk into a room and declare myself royalty, then I would like to think that it would inspire somebody to do the same and to take up their space in the world. So I'm a public speaking coach. That's one of the hats or headscarves that I wear. And also I run the Big Festoon, which is one of the fastest growing business and personal development events, not just here in the UK, but we've just recently taken it over to LA. We're landing it in New York this year as well. So yeah, my MO is to create events that are safe spaces to have conversations that matter, that are centered in inclusion, and enthusiastic inclusion, and help share the microphone so that we can put more money in the hands of good people so that we can do good things in the world.
I love this. So let's start really early on. What would you say is your earliest memory of money?
My earliest memory of money, there's two. One is that I explicitly remember that when any money conversation was happening in the room, either the adults would notice that the children were there and would stop talking, or they would explicitly say, we don't talk about money. The other is I remember when the doorbell used to go. I remember being told to hide behind the settee, to not answer the door because it was somebody coming to collect some sort of debt. And so there was a very visceral and real fear around money in our house as we were growing up. And I didn't even realize that was the case until I started to earn money and started to track my own money behaviours. I just thought that was normal. I thought that's just, you know, grown-ups don't talk around money around children, which is really fascinating to me now that we, now that we're kind of grown up with a little bit more information. But yeah, those are my earliest memories of money. We don't talk about money in front of children. And also when the door knocks, hide.
Run, because money's scary. So do you think that has had an impact on your life? I know the answer to this, I'm sure, but how has that impacted your life growing up and into adulthood?
It's affected me in a few ways, and I'm stuttering because I think in a lot of ways. We could probably sort of sit all day here and talk about exactly how. But in a nutshell, my talents and my skills have been, I've always had a really good, solid work ethic. And the information that I had was that you had to work really, 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 really hard to get even a little bit. And so I wanted a little bit, not even a lot, but I knew that I had to work really, 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 really hard in order to make that happen. So it directly impacted my work ethic, I think. And also led me to different instances of burnout in different ways until I realized you didn't necessarily have to work really, really hard to get a little bit. You can work really, really hard and make lots, and you can work really, really hard and not work and not earn lots. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so the gear shift in that realization as I got older was really interesting. Another thing, another way that it affected my behaviors, my feelings, my thoughts, my emotions around money was that when I got it, I didn't feel like I deserved it. And so I would use it to treat everybody else for validation, to be liked, to help them, but never to keep it just for me, because that would be really selfish.
Was that conscious, or is it only now you've done a lot of work on you and knowing who you are and what you stand for and all those things that you can now look back and go, oh, hold on, that was me sabotaging my mind and giving it away because I didn't feel worthy. So when you were doing that, you weren't aware of it. It was just something you did, but you never really had enough because you were giving it all away, right?
Yeah, I thought I was being kind. I thought I was helping. What I didn't realize that I was doing in many ways, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, that my inherent behavior was centered around keeping me safe. And so as we were growing up, there were things that we experienced in the household. There was a lot of familial domestic abuse, addiction and things like that. And there were two things that I found: that if I was working really hard and I was earning, I was self-sufficient. And that was, you know, I needed that. And also I could help my mum. My mum was struggling, and, you know, we had the board conversation. I was working from when I was 12 or 13. It was, you're earning money now. You need to give us some money. But really, that wasn't to teach me how to pay bills. That was, I was contributing to the household because mum was struggling. And so when I got money, I couldn't keep it for myself. I had to give it to somebody else. As a sort of, as a behavior. So the survival mechanism was, I was validated when I would treat somebody to dinner, for example, or hear that somebody really liked something. I would buy that thing for that person because it would make them feel good, but hopefully ingratiate them to me. Very, very, like sort of dark survival mechanisms that felt light. I thought I was just being kind, but actually I was trying to protect myself by not experiencing conflict with people and preventing conflicts by being over nice.
This is so interesting. And I think there's a lot of people that will be listening to this that will recognize this pattern, and they might not be aware that at the conscious level that you are now, like this might be light bulbs going, shit, that's me. Like, oh shit. So the work that you did, and this is probably a very big answer that we might not even have the time for, Dani, but what work did you start with? How did you start to discover this about yourself and start to adjust it?
Okay, a very short interruption of the episode, so I want you to get back to listening. I just wanted to remind you that the Money Mechanics weekly newsletter is completely free, and we'll send this out to you every week. All you've got to do is find the link in the show notes and get signed up. When we send this out to you, this weekly newsletter is going to include things that will help you to become a better money mechanic. It could be things like what's happening in the markets, things like budgets, how that's going to impact you. And I'm also going to share a lot of insight into what I'm doing in my own portfolio and in the portfolio of the guests we've got on the podcast to really just help you understand what you could do differently to make your money work as best as it can for you. Make sure you go and find that link and get signed up.
I'd experienced a situation whereby I'd lost my house, and a house is a pretty big thing to lose. So what I mean when I lost my house, I mean, I was not able to pay my mortgage because I'd experienced financial abuse. In my being kind and my protection, I'd gotten out loans and things like that. And that left me in a position when that relationship disintegrated, as it definitely needed to. It left me in a really tough position financially. And so I lost the house, and I was sofa surfing. I had my 2 kids under the age of 3 at the time, and I was hustling. So there was nothing wrong with my work ethic. So I was gigging. I was a singer. I was gigging full time. I was taking all the gigs that I could get. And also I was hustling by way of multi-level marketing. So I got involved with a cosmetics company, and because it made sense to me. I was in the car getting ready for a gig, putting my makeup on. It made sense that if I was putting my makeup on and I was live streaming, because that's how I built my community, as people know it today, was originally me getting ready for gigs in a car, putting my makeup on. So it made sense that if I was going out and gigging and putting my makeup on anyway, I could sell the makeup that I was sharing. People would ask me about it, so they would take my recommendations, right? So in the multi-level marketing world, it is very mindset centric. In fact, it's one of the only businesses that I've come across where personal development has to be at its core, because it's cutthroat, it's burning through numbers, it's reliant on people who don't know necessarily about personal development, money mindset and things. It's reliant on people who need money but don't necessarily know how to make lots and lots of it. So a lot of their training is informed by personal development, reflection, money mindset, to encourage people to move into that sort of hustle space. And I went to one of these seminars, and this guy did an exercise with us that I'd never in a million years thought to do. And he did this, Sarah. He said, I want you to all imagine that you've got a card, and it's just a pulling out money card, an ATM card. You're going to go to an ATM, and what I need you to know is that there's an infinite amount of money on this card. And I can't imagine an infinite amount of money. Certainly not at that. I'd never done this kind of exercise before. I had the amount of money that was going to get me through to the end of the month and feed my children. That was the amount of money that I had. Anything outside of that was a glass ceiling that I didn't realize was a glass ceiling. It was just it. People like me didn't earn infinite amounts of money. Right. So I'm thinking, this is really interesting. This is making me feel uncomfortable. I don't know how much to pull out. So he says, you can visit as many times as you want. So your first visit to this ATM, what are you doing? And I went, oh, well, do you know what? I'll pull out enough to do all of my big shop for the month, so I don't have to worry about infinite amount of money, Sarah, and I'm pulling out enough for my big shop. So he goes, you can go again. What are you doing? Oh, do you know what? I buy my house and my big shop, and I'm going to furnish the house. I've got everything that I need. I'm going to pay for my driving lessons. I'm going to get a car. So then I've got everything that I need to look after me and the kids. But I don't, do I? Because once all that's paid for, I've got to sustain it and pay the bills. So then I'm thinking, right, okay, so I'm going to go again. I'm going to pull out enough to pay for my bills for the rest of my life and for my kids' college education now. I'm going to buy my mum a house and my sister a house. I'm going to buy the people around me. So I've sorted myself out. I'm okay now. And then I'm going to sort out my immediate family and the kids. And he was like, now you've done that, what else are you going to do? And I was like, I'm gonna give to charity. Okay, now you've given to all the charities. Now what are you going to do? And now we're stepping into, what would I do if it was just frivolous? Like, what if I'd never understood what it meant to be? And I was like, I want to put on an event. I want to put on a festival, a big F-off festival that's going to make people feel safe and included. I never even thought until that moment, and this is interesting me saying this out loud, Sarah, because I didn't realize that actually what I've created with the Big Festoon is this, with this infinite amount of money, which I still don't have, by the way. I can just keep going back to the ATM, and this was the realization that I had over time, was that we can, whatever we've decided we're making the money for, we're going to make the money for, as long as we do two things. One, know what we need to know to make the money, and two, show up for the thing.
This is so interesting. And actually, if you said that then, create the event, obviously I know what the Big Festoon's about, and I know, what you're trying to create there. That is what you've done. And,
wild.
When you think back to it, after everything else is dealt with, like your immediate needs dealt with, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Once all of that stuff's done, all the important stuff, what's the purpose? Like, why are we here? What are we contributing to the planet? What do we care really about doing? What do we want? I say this to clients all the time, if you focus on what you want, actually the money will come easier than if you're trying to churn to get to the point where you can do what you want. Like, if you do what you want first, the money will come. So that, though, I get a lot of pushback on that, and I'm sure you probably do. Clients are saying, like, but I'm scared, I can't afford it, what if it goes wrong? There's all those things. So what's your thoughts around that?
Well, it's interesting just articulating this experience with you, Sarah, because if you're moving toward the thing that you want, and what I eventually got to was purpose. And the thing that actually keeps me going, people look at what I do and go, goodness me, Dani, I couldn't do what you do. But the thing that I want to create is so impactful and so much bigger than me and just wanting to pay my bills and wanting to make lots of money for money's sake, that it became really compelling to do. I became hungry in a way that I'd not experienced before to do something bigger than me. So when I have conversations with people who are like, I couldn't possibly, and we're still in that Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the first sort of 2 layers, we've got to think, right, okay, what's beyond that? Because as soon as we start to click into the beyond that, the hunger and the fire burns a little bit brighter. And I hadn't until that point had purpose other than to pay my bills and feed my kids. I'd not really thought, I kind of had, but not without any clear direction. And so it became easier to fulfill those lower level needs, having something that was so far beyond that I was intently shooting for, but it made those things underneath easier to get. Instead of those things underneath being the hard thing to get at, it became shooting for the moon and landing amongst the stars anyway.
Yeah.
The destination's
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Aiming over here, because actually then this stuff is actually handled.
Yeah.
So, okay, you deal with, or you work with clients who have no money at all, just getting started, probably less than none, maybe in debt in that space. And you also deal with clients who are celebrities, multimillionaires, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Do you think there is any common denominator that impacts everybody when it comes to money, finances, and the things that we consider in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. I still think it comes down to purpose. I think that one way or another, I've met some really, really happy people who don't have a lot of money. And I've met some really, really unhappy people who have a lot of money. And I think that the common denominator isn't the money, it's the happiness, it's the purpose. It comes back to that. And I think that's the reason why my audience is so varied, is because the thing that I'm sharing isn't, if you come and learn in my spaces, if you come and learn from me, you're going to make more money, you're going to have more impact, and you're going to have more influence. The money's going to come. We'll look at the mechanics for that. That's fine. But if it's impact and influence, and you're really clear on the impact that you want to have for the people that you want to help, and the influence that you want to have in order to make change, then we can set the mechanics up around that. Yeah. And so the people that are just starting out, and there's this great energy that happens between the two as well. The people that are just starting out can see what's possible and not separated from the people who are much further along in their journey. And the people that are much further along in their journey are exposed to that fresh, hungry, I've got this kind of energy that after a while, it's difficult to maintain.
For sure.
And so the common denominator again, and it might sound glib to those of you that might not be exploring this as a way of thinking yet, is really that purpose. I don't live an extravagant life. Not because I don't want to or I don't think I deserve it. I've got a yellow Nissan Duke. She's lovely. She's called Brenda. I've got a house and my mortgage is paid every month. My kids, if they need something, they get it. If they want something that's different, they've got to fight me for it. But one of the things that I wanted to do right at the very beginning was just be able to go to a restaurant, order a meal, and not have to look at the menu. Anything above there now, I'm winning. I'm absolutely winning. And it doesn't matter now which restaurant I go into. I can go in and pay for a meal in any restaurant. Now I've hit that from a material goal perspective, because I'm a foodie, I love food. The world's my oyster from there. And so the real important thing is that I've found that when you get to the top of the ladder materialistically, you need something else. Because otherwise 100%. You give up.
100%. I was talking to a friend of mine recently about this. Like, I had a target a few years ago. The target was to do £100,000 in a day, in a billing day, which is like 8 hours. And we did like 98 grand, something like that, in 8 hours. And I was really disappointed.
Really disappointed with that.
Yeah, I know. And I like, now looking back, I'm like, you're mad. Like, what was happening? But at the time, I was so driven by money for money's sake. I'd forgotten myself. I'd forgotten why. And every time I was hitting a goal, it just felt empty every time I was doing it. So I was going bigger, bigger, bigger. I was like, it's not enough. And I remember my mentor at the time was like, Sarah, you've made more money in 8 hours than most people make in 3 years. Like this is not a thing. This is not a money thing. This is a purpose. This is a fulfillment, happiness thing. Like, you're not going to be happy if you did £1 million in a day because you're not happy at a different level. Like, there's other things to concentrate on. And, you know, that triggered a load of work for me. And I've gone on a work journey. Well. Yeah, it's hard work. Because
it questions who you think you are or who you think you were when you were chasing that thing. Yeah. One of my dear friends, does incredible things in the online space, and I would watch her do launch after launch after launch, incrementally getting bigger and bigger, £1 million launches. And at the end of it, I remember when she did her first £1 million launch, and her having that feeling of, oh, so what next? Now I've done that. And that shows, and it's really interesting to see the work that, you know, my friend has done on understanding the £100,000 launch done with great purpose, that delivers, that has great impact, triggers the same dopamine than £1 million launch. And if it doesn't fulfill you when you get there, you stand at the top. Stephen Bartlett did the same when he floated Social Chain. It floated, and he was on his own in a hotel room, and he was I don't know what to do.
Don't feel any different
now.
Yeah,
but there's no magic switch that happens. So like you said, it's the journey, it's along the way. And there's a reason why people keep saying this. It's not because it's cliche, because there's truth in cliche.
I think that's the thing. Like, so many people chase money for the sake of money because they think money will fill the hole that exists in their life right now because they can't see the money. And actually, not just me, but lots of friends of mine, people that are in the online space, like so many people I know, they've got the money, they've got the car, they've got the house, they've got all the things they need. They can fly first class, they can do all the things that go shopping, whatever. And there's still a hole. And the hole's a slightly different shape maybe, but there's still a hole. And actually starting to recognize that, I don't know about you, but for me, it was a really painful process because I was like, oh God, this is not consciously in my control. This is a deeper thing. And when it's deeper, it's harder. Yeah. So
it's more money, more problems as well. So when I first started out doing events, my first event cost £400, didn't make any money. One of the reasons why I wanted to do events is I wanted to become a motivational speaker out in the world outside of corporate. I'd already spoke with thousands and thousands of people across the brands that I was working with and for when I was in corporate, but I had no proof on the outside world that that was something that I was good at or that I could help people with. So I staged this event, cost about £400. I was begging people to attend it so that I could take pictures of it so I could prove to people that I was this speaker. I was turning over maybe £2,000 a month, just, you know, feeding my kids, doing it. And then we did our first launch, and our first launch was 16k. And so that allowed me to put on a bigger event, and that bigger event cost £5,000. And then the next cost £170,000. This one's costing me £500,000. I'm making more money now than I ever was. And the margins are still, it's not the money.
No, this is the arena, right? So for those that don't know Dani, anyone listening who doesn't know Dani, I know lots of you will do, but Dani's taking the Big Festoon to the AO Arena in March of 2026, which is amazing, which is what, a 2,500 capacity event you're doing? Well,
it's a 2,500, we're aiming 2,500. It's a 23,000 person capacity room. And the idea is that we moved the event because we were selling out every time at around sort of 700-800 in the rooms that we were in. And we was like, right, well, okay, so I want to grow into somewhere. And the AO Arena makes sense. You know, the home of the Big Festoon is Manchester. It's in the north. And I know people have feelings about that, but I just think that we need a home, a powerhouse in the north. And I was happy for it to be mine. But yeah, it's a 23,000 person capacity venue. This first run out in arena is 2,500 people. Wow. And, you know, I'm not begging anybody to come along to it anymore. People are sort of like feeling it and understanding what it's about. But what I mean is, like, people will look at my business and go, oh, Dani, you're turning over £50,000 a month. That's wild. Or, you know, there's those launches that do £1 million, but what has to go into that in order to create that? It isn't about the money. The change and the shift has been allowing the money to do good things for me now, not just good things for other people.
So, let's talk a little bit about risk associated with money, right? Because let's be honest, right? An event that's going to cost £500,000, it's a big fucking risk, right? It's a risk regardless, because, you know, things don't always go to plan. Now, to be able to be putting on an event like that, you got to have some balls, right? So first of all, you're diving in and we're fucking going for it, which is great. What do you think has changed in you in relation to risk from when you put on the £400 event with 50 heads or however many people were there to now, do you know what, fuck it, we're going to chuck £500,000 because it's going to be worth it and I believe in it and I know I can do it. What's shifted in you from specifically about risk, taking risk?
The feeling's the same. It's exactly the same. It felt as risky putting a £400 event on than it does, and this might sound ridiculous to those of you listening and watching, than it does to put on this event. We've got form, right? So we've got form of successful events. We know what goes into successful events. We know how to fill them. We know how to do that organically as well. So we've never taken a punt. It's always been when we open the doors, people buy tickets because when they experience the Big Festoon, they get it. So, all right, okay, we'll come back next time. And then they tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yeah.
So if you add that magic, whatever that magic is, on top of a robust marketing strategy, all of a sudden, when you walk in, having incrementally gone from 50 to 150 to 300 to 500 to 800, when you start to look at rooms like that and you walk into a bowl at the arena, all of a sudden you go, oh, this is just the next step up.
It's just a little bit more of that.
It just makes sense. I remember walking into Man United when we took the event to Man United, and it was the same feeling. Then we moved to Bolton, which sounds like, why would you do an event in Bolton? It's because they have a mini arena set up. So when we moved into that, I remember taking the team and my team looking around it going, flipping heck, this is huge. And we fill it out and it feels like home. So we've got form of feeling and form of performance, so that when we do look at something like arena, we go, okay, we understand what the scale looks like, and we also understand the strategy. And the arena, because of the amount of seats that are there, allow us to have even more social impact, which then allows us to have better conversations with people like sponsors, people who are from wider communities. We can support wider communities. So actually, the room itself, now that we know how to run a room, it becomes a bigger commodity. So it actually makes sense more to do it in a bigger room than it does in a small room. Originally. Wild.
Do you ever have moments where you think, oh, fucking hell, I've bitten off more than I can chew?
Every day. The
honesty is great.
Yeah. Oh, God, I'd be lying. But in tandem with that, because here's the thing, the risk is real. You know, we're already kind of sold out of our VIP tickets. We've got the floors sold, you know, there's a lot of people relying on us to pull the event off. We've got sponsors and partners that are now, you know, attached to us, and there's still a mountain to climb. And we've got to move in and out of conversations with sponsors that move close to us, that move away from us, and all of this sort of stuff. So there is this, you know, you're riding the roller coaster and the palpitations are happening. In tandem with that is this absolutely, whether it's Delulu or not, I don't know, Sarah, but this unshakable, it's not belief, because belief gives scope for it not happening, right?
Yeah.
But I absolutely know there is not a world where this doesn't happen. There's just not. I can't imagine a world where on the 11th and 12th of March in 2026, me and my team and my production and my audience are going to be in that room and we are going to deliver the event of my life, because every event is the event of my life. There's not a world where it doesn't happen. So yes, are there wobbles? Yes, of course there are. Am I like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this? Yes, absolutely. But that purpose, you know, that purpose we were talking about a little bit earlier, it's unshakable knowing. I don't know a world where that doesn't happen.
And I love that. And I think, you know, But because of that, Dani, that's why people get behind it, I think, because actually they also believe at the same level that they know it's going to happen, they're going to be there, and it'll be great.
Yeah, they can't see a world where it doesn't happen, which that's when you've got something really clear. And for those of you out there that are feeling like, God, I wish I could have that level of knowing, that only comes from absolute trust in yourself. And if I think, if I've survived homelessness and I've slept on park benches before today, then nothing really scares me anymore. I've lost everything. So fuck it.
So a mentor of mine said to me, actually it was the first guest we had on the podcast, his name's Mark Wright. And he said to me a few years ago, it's like, when you're thinking about risk, whether you go, if the worst case scenario is that you go broke and you lose everything, you might as well go broke and lose everything over 100 million than 100 grand.
Yeah, go hard or go home if we're doing it. Let's go. Same.
If we go in, then get on with it. And I love that. And it's that when you've got that energy and that enjoyment and it sits with your purpose and it aligns with who you are, ultimately the money becomes kind of not irrelevant, but less. And
it becomes a treasure hunt for
worry.
Me.
Yeah.
It becomes a treasure hunt, and breaking things down into things that you know that you can sell as well. For example, if you've got to make £500,000, then you've just got to sell 500 things at £1,000.
Yeah.
Or you've got to sell 2 things at £250,000.
I was going to say 2 things at 250 be
or
easier.
1 thing at £500,000. But when you start to break it down into what's the largest thing I can sell that's going to move me incrementally toward the thing, then it just becomes a logic. It becomes a jigsaw puzzle. And then the logic underneath that is, what's the route to market for that? So whenever I talk to anybody about, achieving your goals, and I always talk about the show up, wise up, rise up cycle, right? So the rising up for me looks like an arena event. And so for the arena event, there are 2 things that need to happen. One is that I need to know some things. I need to know what I'm selling, who I'm selling it to, how I'm selling it, what are my contingencies. Like there's a lot of knowing that needs to happen. And this happens a lot for people who, they've got dreams and they become course consumers. And then we'll bounce from course to course to course, mentor to mentor to mentor, because they get the learning bit right. I've known what I've needed to do for something like this for a long, long time. Like I've been in the entertainment industry since I was 14 years old. However, I didn't trust my capacity to show up. And there's the bit. So who am I showing up for? How am I showing up? There were certain things certainly about an arena event intrinsically that I didn't know that I've had to learn. But now I know all of these things now. Just got to show up relentlessly. And on the days when I don't feel like showing up, what's the thing that I can do that moves? What's the email that I can send today that's going to move the needle, so that when I go to sleep at night, I've at least done one thing that moves us a step closer. So if you have got the thing that you want to create, that might be a financial target. That might be, I want to create legacy wealth for my children, which is my next thing. I want to create legacy wealth and a legacy brand and a legacy event that isn't just Dani Wallace centric. And in order to do that, I need to learn some things. In order to do that, I need to show up for it. So if I know the things and I know that I need to put X amount of money away for a thing, guess what I've got to do? Otherwise, that rising up isn't going to happen. None of my family have ever had any legacy wealth generationally. Me and my sister will be the ones that will break that cycle for the first time. And I find that wild.
I think that, generational wealth, the whole concept of that, and again, for those that are like brand new to this whole topic, generational wealth is basically money that comes down, trust funds, inheritance. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about generational wealth. And, also somebody who has never been inherited anything, my mum, that's not a thing that is in our world. Everything I've got, I've created myself, and obviously with support of lots of people along the way, but it's all my doing ultimately. And I don't have children, so it's not really about that for me either. I just wanted to live a life where I didn't have to worry about money. That for me was the main driver. So do you invest outside of your business, Dani? Do you are you an investor in other assets, or is your whole focus purely on investing all your money back into building your business?
So the plan is always to be an investor, and I'll invest little bits in different ways. So what I'll do is, if there's a startup, for example, I'll tend to sponsor as opposed to invest in the first instance. Getting the event to arena means we get the event at its most profitable position then, which means I don't have to put all of it back in and just keep my business going and all of the things going. The idea was, and events, you know, if anybody's interested in getting into events, I mean, don't, is my first,
really
advice. But also it does take a while for them to actually make the money meaningfully, without screwing people over, or without, you know, I don't compromise on production. I don't compromise on things like lineup and things like that, which means that the event costs more than your average bear. So in order for me to get it there has been the big bit. On the other side of this one, what I'm excited about is getting to March and having my first lot of investments. So I'm connected to some of the most amazing founders, tech founders, AI experts who are my clients. I can't wait to get on and they've invested in me in the, you know, they'll train with me and we'll get them, you know, world ready for them to pitch for investment. Having the Big Festoon as an investable thing was the first thing. So I could then say, right, I'm all right bootstrapping this now, lads. Like, come on, we can make this a global thing. That's going to take investment on my part, but then I can actually start drawing the kind of money whereby I can start investing in property, for example, investing in other businesses. Certainly, I'm particularly interested in queer-owned businesses, black-owned businesses, female-owned businesses, tech startups, AI startups. It's absolutely in my plan the next 12 months to be taking that. So, because I've got my Nissan Juke and I've got my house, I've got my shed at the back of the garden. I don't want much more.
If generational wealth is the long-term ambition, like what happens when you're not here anymore? You know, that investment avenue is definitely going to be the thing that will make such a significant difference to that.
Absolutely. So if I think about the Big Festoon is one of the goals that I've had my eyes on for a long time now. We've talked about that already, but having like a portfolio for each of my children and my nieces to hand over when the time is right, of assets and money, depending on, you know, whatever the state of the situation is at the time, for them to be able to make decisions with and do good in the world with. And me and my sister have brought my kids up, you know, they're good kids. They make, for the most part, good decisions. I mean, we're in the teenage years now, things are
kids,
hairy,
right? So yeah.
But we know we're bringing up incredible young people. So to be able to give them the opportunity to not just earn, they've got great work ethic already. They know how to hustle. Like my 10-year-old came downstairs, was like, I want to do a yard sale, mum. And there was roadworks happening. I was like, you can't do a yard sale. So she got her friend to take a box of all of her essentially belongings that she was getting rid of. And she went she didn't tell me she was doing this. She went door to door, sold her stuff. She went, Mum, I've come back. She had £35. She paid a friend a tenner for carrying everything around with her.
Amazing.
But like this incredible sort of, I don't know where they get it from, this like kind of hustler, but want to do good ethic. So if I've got something that I can give them, that they can be empowered to make those sorts of decisions and do good in the world after I'm here, that for me is that's a life well lived and a life lived well.
So as a parent, let me ask you a question about whether, obviously you're clearly preparing your children for being good human beings as the number one priority, is what I think all parents should be doing. Like, be a good human first and foremost.
Don't be in our bed.
Yeah, don't be a dick. Like, then, you know, having money, creating self-sufficiency and like financial comfort, security, stability, all of those things. Do you think, outside of you as a parent and obviously your sister, the world is geared up to help kids of today to be financially educated, literate and aware of these things?
I'm violently shaking my head if you're just listening to this. My children tell me regularly that the conversations that we have about money indoors and the language that we choose around money. So I'm quite honest with them about my reticence to use, we can't afford that, or, you know, we've got no money. The language that we use is, you know, we've got to find the money to make this happen, as opposed to we can't afford it, or people like us don't do that sort of thing. They're aware of that, and I explain that to them. The reason why we use this kind of language around money is because I don't want you to have limits on the money that you can go and get, because the ATM with the infinite amount of money is real. Yeah. Whether we like it or not, you're not going to want to hear it. That's not me what's the word? That's not me. Rose tinted specs. There is all of the money. We've just got to work out how to find it 100%. And our path to it and our avenue to it and create the right vehicle toward it. Money is an energetic exchange. So they'll say to me regularly, I don't know anybody else's more. Our teachers aren't talking to us about this. They're not talking to us about the language around money. So even if it's not the logistics, I think the language around money is just as important as the logistics. We very, very light touch at school was like, this is the list of household bills that you will have to pay. This is the kind of wage that you'll have to make in order to pay these bills. You might want to put some away in savings. This is a pension.
And savings and pension are not good good places for your money to be anymore.
That is the conversation that they have is that the savings and pension, that's what you're going to want. You want to create a little nest egg. You want to put your money in your savings. They don't talk to them about what property is and what being on the property ladder means and what a portfolio looks like. And they don't, and that's I want them to have access to that kind of learning at primary school, because I figure if I knew what I knew when I was learning about personal development, about mindset, about language around money, and I had that as well as the logistics, I would have had to wait till I was 40 to actually understand these things. I'd have had it sooner. So I'm really glad that I get to have that really open dialogue with the kids around what we're spending our money on, how we're accruing the money, what we're keeping back. And no, I don't think they get it at school is the long answer.
I think the thing, and it's interesting because everybody I speak to who has kids, a lot of the people that are coming on as guests as the podcast are entrepreneurial or really successful in their careers, C-suite level, CEOs, these sorts of people. And you ask, do you think that school is equipping our kids, this generation? And everybody says the same thing. The answer is always
no. It's really
no.
interesting, isn't it?
Everybody says that. And I actually had Sam Teal on, who you know, and I asked him. He was telling me about he'd spoken at a school, and one of the kids asked him whether he was rich, and his mindset around money is not bad. Like, he's young and he's figuring it out and he's getting better and so on. But he said, in that moment, I crumbled. I had all these teachers looking at me, and I didn't answer the question about what I earned, because all of a sudden I knew I was earning more than all the people in the room, more than the teachers. And I didn't want the teachers to be embarrassed. And I didn't want to create this thing. So I didn't talk about it. And I think that's fascinating, because if at school we're not talking about it, and at home we're not talking about it, unless you're in a house that's with people like you or me, or, I talk to my niece and nephew about it all the time. There's no way of breaking this pattern.
Right. And it just keeps moving and moving and moving and moving. Yeah. I think what we're finding now is that there is an increase in people moving towards entrepreneurialism and, gig economy and things like that, because whether we like it, gig economy is entrepreneurial. You've got to find the gigs, whether it's taxi driving or Uber driving or whatever those things are, or if you're in service industry, for example, and it's still gig economy, you're doing one-to-ones and things like that. There is a move toward that, and it means more kids are getting access to the work ethic, more kids are getting access to the conversations, but it's not being given to them in the format that everything else is expected. Reading, writing, arithmetic, it always comes back, reading, writing, arithmetic. And if we actually look at the arithmetic side of things, it should really be getting ready for the world, but really getting ready for the world, understanding really what economics are. But
like interest rates and what's a repayment mortgage versus a interest only mortgage, like those sorts of things I think are super important. But
even how
that's
to
why I
care
wrote
about
the book.
money.
It's why I do what I do, is because actually, had I known what I know now about money when I was 18, I wouldn't have ended up in 60 grand of debt. I wouldn't have ended up with absolutely nothing. I wouldn't have ended up in that space, and I wouldn't have wasted 20 years of my working life clearing debt. I'd be in a much better position now. Like, if I just started investing when I was 18, I'd be very much retired now. I'm in Ibiza anyway, but I'd have gone in quicker.
I'm in dreary Preston. I've got a leak in my shed as well. It's just started. I'm furious. I was just going to say, I saw or watched the Rich Dad Poor Dad. There was a YouTube channel that was talking about compound interest, and talking about how if you have your 15, 16-year-old put away their money, and compound interest means that if they put X amount away, by the time they're 29, which when you're 19, 18, 19, it feels like a lifetime away. We know it's 2 minutes. Actually can set them up for the whole of the next phase of their life. And we don't think about doing it. The first time I really thought about savings meaningfully was when I was 29. By then I was already losing my house. So like that savings conversation was never brought to the forefront. Even just understanding the concept of compound interest. I talked to Eli, my eldest son, he's 17 years old, about compound interest, and he could not wait to have a hold of some money, get a little job and start squirreling away and to choose where his money goes, because he understood that he's quite happy by the time he gets to 30 to have a pot of money to do something nice with, not just maybe buy a car, but do something really meaningful with. I didn't know about compound interest until...
So many people don't. Like, I speak to 60-year-olds now and they're like, I've never heard of that. I don't know what that means, what it is, or how it works. And so many people say to me, I wish I'd been told this when I was younger. And I wrote about this in the book, because compound interest actually is probably the thing that I wish more people, of everything I ever talk about.
I feel like that's the click in the lock. We can talk about interest rates and things like, but if we look at compound interest, not just as a money thing, but as an energetic thing, I build relationships on compound interest. Like I turn up again and again and again and again.
And eventually,
everyone knows who I am.
Absolutely. And, this whole topic around compound interest and the difference between investing being a risk, whether it's investing in a business or investing in the markets or crypto or houses or whatever you choose, we've been convinced that saving is a safe thing to do, even though we're guaranteed to lose value over time because of inflation. And investing is risky because it might go down, but it might go up. And this kind of offset, like the more people I wish understood that investing, it could go down, but it might just work. And I think this comes back to your original point, like when we were talking at the start, if you've got an absolute knowing that you're going to be okay, and you show up and you learn and you show up again, you learn and you do, show up, learn and do, actually over time that will compound, and it
compound interest.
Go, exactly that.
Why am I in an arena now and not at that hotel in Chorley?
Go, exactly that. So, Dani, I mean, I could sit and talk to you for ages. I find like the conversation really interesting. So, but we've got 2 things to do at the end of every episode, right?
Let's do it.
At the end of every episode, we ask you a question that was left by our previous guest. We didn't know what the question was going to be, so I'm going to ask you that. And then I'm going to ask you to give me a question for our next guest, not knowing who the guest is. So
I don't know who they are.
No.
Oh, okay, fine.
You just have to go over any question you want. So the question that was left for you, they didn't know it was going to be you, but the question that was left for you was, what did you want to be when you were younger? And are you there? Did you get there? Did you change your mind?
I wanted to be a bingo number caller.
Amazing.
I remember writing it on a wet break time. I must have been. My mum, the only time my mum ever went out, she never went out. Like the only time she ever went out was she went to the bingo. And she just really enjoyed it. And I didn't really understand what going to the bingo was. But I was like, do you know what? I reckon that'd be a really fun job. If that's the only time my mum ever goes out, it must be a really fun job being a bingo number caller.
Amazing.
Again, I must have been about 6, 7 years old. I definitely wanted to be a singer, but I remember writing down, I want to be a bingo number caller. And when I was 16, essentially, I ran away with the circus. I didn't really. I became a holiday entertainer. And as such, part of that, being a blue coat at Poynton's, is calling very, very serious games of bingo.
Bingo, yeah.
And I was 19. And I remember at the time thinking, I wanted to be a bingo number caller when I grow up, and I don't really feel like I'm a grown up, but here I am, bingo, and I'm not entirely sure what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think that's another example of getting to the top of the ladder and realising this is nothing there.
You want a different ladder. You wish you'd been on a different ladder the whole time.
That ladder, thanks.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So the last thing is for you to ask any question that you want, and we will ask our next guest it.
So I love the idea of compound interest, and we've talked about the fact that compound interest is probably one of the most key things that you could share in any socioeconomic background, have people understand it and be more compelled to move in that direction financially. I use compound interest in the way that I build my relationships. Can you give me an example of when you've used compound interest to build your relationships, and what was the outcome of that?
Amazing. Thank you so much. We will ask that on our next call. Dani, thank you so much for your time. It's been really lovely to speak to you, and I could sit and hang out with you all day.
We should. I should come over to Ibiza.
You fly. They're coming out of London. If people want to get in touch with you, or people want to book a ticket to the Big Festoon, which I recommend everybody does, like, how can people find you? I mean, I know you're prolific on socials, but what's your preferred method of people getting hold of you?
So you can find me at the Queen Bee Dani across all of the socials. You can find the Big Festoon just by Googling it, thebigfestoon.co.uk. But could I tell you about something that's really exciting? Because I think we might be live with this by the time this goes out. You're the first person to hear about this outside my immediate team, by the way. Sarah.
Amazing.
So exclusive over here. We've just developed a social impact aspect of the Big Festoon called the Festoon 500. Where we are engaging 500 founders to, yes, of course, grab a ticket to the Big Festoon, but for £1,000, what they get to do is they get a ticket, of course, to the Big Festoon, but then they become a part of the conversation about closing the gap between people who are from underrepresented communities and business. So for every one of these that we sell, we're going to sponsor 2 people from underrepresented communities to come along to the Big Festoon. We're also going to give that founder and those people that are sponsored access to a whole resource room of my network's pretty incredible, some of the most prolific and amazing people from the business space and beyond, a resource room with loads of resources that people can access to build their businesses. And also they will be invited to be part of the conversation beyond the arena, where I'll invite those people to come and have a conversation, meet the community leaders, meet those members of the community, and talk about closing the gap on out into 2026 and beyond. So if anybody wants to know about the Festoon 500, do drop us an email or drop us a message, or find me on the socials at the Queen Bee Dani. But it's going to be one of the ways that we create the most social impact. I want to close the gap for so many businesses that aren't getting the exposure or access to this kind of learning, just like I did when I went to that multi-level marketing event. I found myself in a position where I had a great mind and no clue, and I want to close that gap for as many people as possible. It doesn't have to be till you're desperate. We just need access to the rooms.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. And as Dani said, if you want to talk to her about that or anything else that she said, please get in touch with her, grab a ticket to the Big Festoon, like, just go and look her up and find her. Yeah, get amongst it. Thank you all so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll make sure all the links and everything that you need are in the show notes as well. Dani, if there's anything I haven't got, I will let you know, and you can send me whatever you need. And yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I've had a ball.
Thank you so much for getting to the end of the podcast episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind you that the weekly Money Mechanics newsletter is available to you completely free. This is a newsletter that I'm going to send out every week to just give you some ideas around what's happening in the markets, what's happening at a global level, what's happening at a lot more local level, so that you can better understand what you can do with your money to make it work for you for the future. I'm also going to share in the newsletter what I'm doing in my own portfolio, just to give you some insights into what my ideas are, why I'm making the decisions that I'm making, in the hope that it will help you to make those decisions in your own portfolios as well. All you've got to do is find the link that's with this episode, hit the link and subscribe, and that newsletter will start to come out to you every single week. I'd also really love to take this opportunity to invite you to drop me a review. I love the opportunity of getting to share these podcast episodes with you. It really helps me to better understand how we can do the best job that we can here at Money Mechanics if you tell us your feedback. So drop us a review, tell us the sort of guests that you want, talk to me and connect with me on Instagram, talk to us on YouTube, wherever you are hanging out. Tell us how you're finding it, and we can make this the very best podcast it can be. Thank you again for being such a valued listener. I appreciate you all, and I'll speak to you soon.